Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So, yesterday we started our Super Heavy Samurai coverage off with the initial deck profile with the first few games I had played with the deck. Now I've played quite a few more. I would not call myself an expert by any means. However, I do feel comfortable enough with the list here in order to show off the combo guide. It's only been a couple of hours since the deck profile video dropped there, and I'm already seeing multiple comments that are in fact asking for that combo guide, which, to be fair, I was going to make either way, but I know a lot of people are looking to get this information as soon as possible, so I decided to make an extra effort to get this combo guide video out as soon as possible. I will say, one of the things that I kind of struggle with about making this combo guide is the fact that with Super Heavy Samurai, there are quite a few different variants you can play. There are FTKs, there are Auroradon lines, there's like the Dissipator looping the PSY Framelord Omega. But I decided to stick with kind of the build I had for the deck profile because I think this is one of the more, what's what I'm looking for, kind of like generic lines. I didn't want to necessarily show off a build that was super specialized like some of the other variants I mentioned. Kind of like we did the Monodium combo guide. I want to make sure that the list that we're using is the most applicable to the most amount of people. I think that's going to be end up being the most helpful. So this is a kind of quote-unquote standard combo line deck for Super Heavy Samurai. I guess the one sort of specialized thing we are doing is Scythe locking. Not only that, but we are also working the PSY Framelord Omega into our turn 1 combo line. But from the different variants, the different combos that I found in my research, I think this is one of the most potent. Not only does it produce the Scythe lock, but again, it also does the Omega hand rip. It'll also get you a couple of Omni negates, and on top of that, it even sets you up with a couple of draws. So you end with this board full of disruption, and you still have 5 cards in hand, by the way, at the end of it. It's pretty gross. So I think that in terms of like the most bang for your buck without hyper fixating on like one specific type of build, this is about the best kind of generic build you're going to be able to get for Super Heavy Samurai, in my opinion. Now, in order to achieve the combo line, there are actually 4 different one-card starters that we have. Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike, Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, Super Heavy Samurai Soulpiercer, and then finally Super Heavy Samurai Wagon. Now, each of these combo lines will actually get you to the same end board, even though they use these 4 different starters. However, the steps are going to be different, and these starters all have different strengths and or weaknesses. So I think the way I'm going to do this combo guide is I'm going to show you the combo using each of these starters. This will not only show you the unique steps that you have to take in order to make sure that you pull off the combo with the different variants, but or with the different starters rather, within this variant. But on top of that, again, I get to cover how the deck can be disrupted at certain points and so on and so forth. So even if you're not playing this deck, it might behoove you to still watch this video if you want to learn how to disrupt Super Heavy Samurai. We'll be using the list that I used for the deck profile here. I made one very minor change to it, which is in the extra deck. I replaced the level 12 Synchro with Baguska. The level 12 Synchro being this one here. I mentioned it in the deck profile, but you do not actually need this card at all in order to make plays with this deck. It's not part of your end board, at least not a part of the one that I'm going to be showing. And even outside of like the end boards, there haven't been like too many scenarios where I feel like I want this card. In fact, the only time I did really want to summon this was for the 4K body that can also attack, because it's weird. It's 4K defense points, but it attacks with the defense points. But aside from the stats, it's really not that necessary. And even then, it's really usually not that necessary in that regard. But in any case, I'm going to start with the Wakaushi, and we're going to go ahead and jump into these combo lines here. Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro there, we are going to start off by showing the one-card combo with Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi. So we're going to go ahead and start by placing the Wakaushi in the pendulum scale. Now, one note I have for people, by the way, who are looking to play against this deck, I've had a lot of people destroy the Wakaushi as soon as I place it in the pendulum zone. I don't recommend doing that because just because you destroy the Wakaushi as soon as it's being activated doesn't mean they can't search up another one later and then activate that. So Being a face-up spell card, if you are actually able to chain a destruction to the activation of this effect, it won't be on the field to resolve, and you should be good there. So, I just know I played against like Runic, for example, will fire off destruction as soon as I set this. Don't do that. Wait for them to use the effect first. But anyway, let's actually start with the combo now. So I'm going to activate the Wakaushi I just set in order to place the big Benkei in my other scale. You do want to be running two big Benkei, by the way. If you open one, you need to still be able to place one directly from your deck in order to be able to special summon the Wakaushi from the Pendulum Zone. I'm going to put Wakaushi here. Just make sure you're not putting it here or here, so that way it's not interfering with the Scarecrow Link Zone later. But, alright, now that we have that on the field, I'm going to go ahead and activate the big Benkei effect and add a Superheavy Samurai Soul card. We're going to get Superheavy Samurai Soulpiercer, which is probably just the best monster in this deck, frankly. We can normal summon that. And now we're going to special summon our Superheavy Samurai Crow. Scarecrow, rather. Alright, now that Soulpiercer has gone to the graveyard, that is going to trigger its effect in order to add a Superheavy Samurai card from deck to hand. We're going to want to grab a Motorbike here. Even though we're just going to dump the Motorbike to add another monster, you still want to do this to make sure that you're setting up the Motorbike in the graveyard. That is going to matter here in a moment. As far as which card you want to add here, if you don't already have Soulpeacemaker in hand like I do, you should probably take that one. But if you already have that, you can grab Superheavy Samurai Stealthy as well. Part of the thing about adding cards from deck to hand in this particular combo line is that a lot of the time, you want to add not the next thing you need, but the thing you're going to kind of need after that, if that makes any sense. Alright, so now I'm going to use the Scarecrow effect, and we're going to discard a card from our hand. We'll just discard one of our non-Super Heavy Samurai monsters. And I'm going to want to bring back that Soulpiercer. It's going to go into the zone that Scarecrow is pointing to, and it has to. So that's why I said make sure you're not placing Wakaushi here or here, depending on where you want to end up placing the Scarecrow. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and Synchro Summon for the Accel Synchro Stardust Dragon. We're going to use both Wakaushi and Soulpiercer. Also, you'll want to note that I did not activate the Wakaushi on board effect just yet. We're going to use it later, but don't use it now, because if you do, you're going to end up locking yourself into Super Heavy Samurai summons for the rest of the turn, and we definitely want to summon more than just Super Heavy Samurai monsters. Alright, now we trigger all three of these effects, and we're going to chain block with the Wakaushi effect that's going to place it back in the Pendulum Zone there. So, I'm going to do Soulpiercer, Chainlink 1, Accel Stardust, Chainlink 2, and then Wakaushi, Chainlink 3. Again, that'll chain block those other effects. Also, make sure that we're not linking off the Wakaushi for the Scarecrow, because it only puts itself in the Pendulum Zone if it's used for a Synchro Summon, and we need it to set up our Pendulum Scale. Now we're going to bring back the Motorbike. This is why we had to set that up in the graveyard there. And Soulpiercer is going to get another search. At this point, again, we're looking to make sure that we have both the Soulpeacemaker and the Stealthy in hand for the next phase of our combo line. Aside from that, we will want to make sure that we have the Soulgaia at some point too. I already opened it here. Another card you're going to want to make sure you have at some point is the second Wakaushi, so I'll grab that at this point. Again, a lot of the searching that you're going to be doing is not for the next play, but for like a follow-up one, so always keeping that in mind. Now we're going to make Baronne de Fleur, Baronne de Fleur. Throw that right over here. Part of our end board, and will also help insulate the rest of our combo line. So, going to be activating the Soulpeacemaker, rather. We're going to equip that to the Scarecrow, right over here. And as long as I have a Super Heavy Samurai monster on the board, just go ahead and special summon the Stealthy. You don't have to do it right this second, but it's like, you know, we've got one on the field, so we might as well do it. Alright, the Soulpeacemaker effect is going to pop itself and the Scarecrow in order to summon out a Super Heavy Samurai monster from our deck. We're going to want to summon Super Heavy Samurai Scales. Now, you might be wondering, but Hex, what if you open your one of Super Heavy Samurai Scales? Does that mess up your combo line? The answer is no, as long as you open one of your other starters. I'm going to cover that after I cover the one-card combo lines. What to do if you open the Scales. We're going to special summon Scales from our deck. Scales F will bring back a super heavy samurai monster from our graveyard. We're going to want to bring back the Soulpiercer for sure. Alright, now at this point, because I am using the Ancient Gearbox and Infinitrack drill package in order to set up a couple of extra draws, I'm going to go for the Ballista here. If you were not on this package, it's not required. You would just go straight for the Qliphort Genius here. We're going to go for the Genius after the Ballista in this line in particular. Let's use the Scales and the Soulpiercer as materials here. And link summon the Ancient Gear Ballista. This will trigger both the Ancient Gear Ballista and Soulpiercer F. I'll chain block the Ballista effect because that search is more important. Because again, I already have Gaia Booster in the second Prodigy Wakaushi here. Okay, so for Soulpiercer, at this point there's nothing else I need to add in order to continue the combo line. I'm going to grab a Motorbike for some follow-up plays on the next turn there. Now, Ballista is going to add the Ancient Gear Box. Ancient Gear Box's effect will activate when it's added from your deck to your hand, which will then be able to add the Infinitrack Tunneller. I said drill earlier, I meant Tunneller, that's my bad. Okay, so now we're going to do another Link Summon for that Qliphort Genius. Again, if you're not on this particular Ancient Gear package, that's fine, you would just go for the Qliphort Genius earlier, but... Also, it's going to be very important that you Link Summon the Qliphort Genius before you Pendulum Summon. That way we can get the Qliphort Genius's effect to search a level 5 or higher machine monster. But now that this card is on the field, we can go ahead and perform a Pendulum Summon here. Now, even if you can summon 4 monsters, I would still only summon the 3 to make sure that we have enough space to continue our combos. The 3 that we're going to want to summon are Ancient Gearbox, Infinitrack Tunneller, and that second Wakaushi. Alright, we're going to want to make sure that we put them in the zones that the Genius is pointing to for sure there. This will proc the Genius F, allowing us to add a level 5 or higher machine monster from deck to hand. We're going to get Regulus. If you already opened Regulus, then you could potentially add the Jizukiru for some follow-up plays there. If it ends up being needed, but... Alright, I'm going to special summon the Therion King Regulus, which does so by equipping a machine monster from our graveyard. We are absolutely going to equip Soulpiercer, because that will end up giving us another draw. Or another search, rather. Okay, now we're going to do specifically the Artifact Scythe aspect of the line. If you were not on Artifact Scythe, and you were just going for, like, an Appaloosa, then you could potentially do that here by linking off a bunch of stuff. If you wanted to make another 8, if you're on Warlord Savage Dragon, you could do that here as well. But again, I'm going to show you how to set up the Scythe Lock. We're going to do that with Artifact Dagda using... let's use the Qliphort Genius as well as... we'll do Ancient Gearbox. Okay, now I'm going to activate the Baronne de Fleur effect. We're going to pop that Soulpiercer that's equipped to the Regulus. And because we've activated the effect of a monster on our field, now I get to use the Artifact Dagda effect. So Dagda will end up setting the Scythe directly from our deck. I'm just going to put that right over here. And then Baron pops the Soulpiercer. This will, of course, give us yet another search. Again, I actually don't need anything else to combo with at this point, so... we can add a second card for follow-up plays. Let's grab another Wakaushi, why not? Okay. Now, let's see. Where are we? Okay, so yeah, now we can go for the Elf, using the Tunneller and the Dagda. I'll just throw the Spright Elf right over here. I'm going to use Spright Elf in order to bring back the Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike. Of course, with that being level 2. Oh, and then now we're going to use the Gaia booster, the Soulgaia booster here. Just equip it to something, it doesn't really matter what, and then you can immediately use this effect to unequip itself. Now, I'm going to weave in a hand rep, an Omega hand rep into the line here. But again, if you were on Warlord Savage Dragon instead... to set up another Omni Negate, that is also perfectly fine. You could be doing that instead. But I like the hand rip because we're already going to have 2 Omni Negates on the board. And I feel like at that point, you kind of want to diversify the disruption that you're going to have. So I prefer the hand rip over the 3rd Omni very slightly here, but I wouldn't fault you for doing either. They're both good. I'm going to use the Motorbike effect to bump its own level up by 2. And now we can Synchro Summon for the Omega. And as I said before, we can use Omega to rip a card out of our opponent's hand, so that way they're only starting on 4 cards here. Okay, now we are finally done summoning things that aren't super heavy samurais, which means we can finally use the Wakaushi effect. Let's go ahead and discard, I don't know, the other non-super heavy samurai monster, why not? And we are going to special summon who else but Soulpiercer. Now we can Synchro Summon the Wakaushi as well as the Soulpiercer. And to be fair, I probably should have put Elf over here so I could target protect the Baron, by the way. But this also sets up the Super Heavy Samurai Ninja Sarutobi. This has a quick effect to destroy spell or trap cards, which is how we are going to end up popping the Artifact Scythe on the opponent's turn. And because, of course, we use Soulpiercer, we get yet another search. Again, this is pretty incidental. I'll grab a Wagon, why not? It doesn't really matter at this point what you get. And we are not done just yet. We still have the Infinitrack Tunneller effect. So this will not only set up a couple of extra draws, but it also lets you put back a lot of the stuff that you end up comboing with on your turn 1, which is really, really cool. So we can put back a bunch of our extra deck monsters. I like putting back the Ancient Gear Ballista, even if you don't put back the box, because this effect, to make a monster's attack or defense 0, that could come up on your opponent's turn. I have had that come up. What else can we put back? The Scales, because that's a 1-of, and I guess the Soulgaia booster is also a 1-of, so we can just set those cards back up, and then get a couple of extra draws. And there you have it. This is the full setup here. It's a Spright Elf, which again, to be fair, should be over here to point at both Baron and Sarutobi. Spright Elf with a couple of Omnis, the Baron and the Regulus. We have Sarutobi ready to pop the Scythe to lock them out of the extra deck on the opponent's turn. And as you can see, they only start with 4, well, after they draw 5 cards in hand, because we did in fact hand rip with Omega. And again, that Omega can definitely be another level 8 synchro, like another Boarload Savage Dragon, to pull back one of these Link monsters in the graveyard, probably the Dogda in this case, and have even more Omni Negates if you want that instead of the hand rip. But that is just one way to set up the combo. Let's go ahead and check out yet another one. Okay, so here we have the opening with Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike. I'm going to follow up with this one next because it's almost exactly the same actually as the Wakaushi line. However, I will note that, and this is again a tip for playing against this deck actually, if your opponent starts by discarding the Motorbike, I would not Ash Blossom that at all. It's very easy for your opponent to just have another way to combo off in hand already. Even in this hand in particular, let's say I activated Motorbike and my opponent used Ash Blossom, well then I can just normal summon the Wagon and then do a combo line from there anyway. So as far as the best choke point, again, it can be kind of tough because it really does ultimately end up depending on the variant and also the way that they open. Generically, I think one of the best things I can say is if you can keep Soulpiercer out of the graveyard, that is one of the easiest ways to completely shut down their combo line. That's why DD Crow is played in a lot of not only Super Heavy Samurai decks, but in a lot of decks in general right now. It ends up being a very, very good way to disrupt the deck. It's also incidentally why I'm playing Ghost Belle, because I know a lot of people are looking to use DD Crow in order to disrupt the line here. But if we're starting with the Motorbike, again, it's going to be almost the exact same line we did last time. We're just going to end up using the Motorbike to add the Wakaushi, and then setting that up in our Pendulum Scale. Now we're going to activate the Wakaushi to set up the Big Benkei. Again, if we opened a Big Benkei and only played one, we would not be able to summon Wakaushi here, or use the effect at all. So, definitely important to play at least 2 of this card. I think 3 is too much, but 2 is, I think, the best number. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add us the Soulpiercer. This will be nice too, because now I didn't open so many of the combo pieces, and I can actually show you what stuff you need to add and in what order as well. So, normal summon Soulpiercer. Let's go ahead and link that off for our Scarecrow. This will, of course, proc the Soulpiercer F to search. And, let's see, I'm going to need the Soulpeacemaker next, if I recall correctly. Should be that one. Alright, now we can use Scarecrow's F. Let's go ahead and just discard this Wagon. And bring back the Soulpiercer. Again, it goes into the zone that Scarecrow points to, so make sure that zone is not occupied. Very important. Gonna sync the Wakaushi and this for the Accel Synchro Stardust. Again, we're also not using the Wakaushi effect this time around, because otherwise we'll be locked into super heavy samurai summons. And here we are yet again with this chain link. Like I said, this combo line is going to be pretty much the same as the last one from this point forward, so I won't explain it in quite as much detail as I did last time. Alright, gonna place the Wakaushi over here. Accel Synchro Stardust will bring back that Motorbike right here. And a Soulpiercer, we're gonna want to grab Stealthy this time. Now we can insulate our combo line with the Baronne de Fleur. Throw her right over here. Okay, from there we're going to equip the Soulpeacemaker to the Scarecrow. Drop that down here. And, again, why not? We have a super heavy samurai monster in the field. Let's just get Stealthy on the board. Soulpeacemaker will tribute itself and the Scarecrow in order to special summon the Scales. And again, don't worry if you don't know what to do. If you open Scales, you will show that combo line at the end here. Scales is going to bring back who else but Soulpiercer. And again, I am on the Ancient Gear Ballista setup, so I'm going to go ahead and weave that into the combo line here, linking off the Scales and the Soulpiercer to do so. But yet again, if you are not doing the Ballista, Ancient Gearbox, Infinitrack Tunneller setup, then you can just go straight for Qliphort Genius here. Chainlink 1 Ballista, Chainlink 2 Soulpiercer. Let's see, Soulpiercer needs to add the Gaia booster. We need to weave that into the combo line. I believe that is the last... Oh no, that and also the second Wakaushi. Let's just get the second Wakaushi now. I don't think it super matters what order we end up doing this in, but better safe than sorry, because we'll probably need this first. Alright, Ancient Gearbox will then add the Tunneller. Alright, now we're going to link for the Genius using the Stealthy and the Ballista. And now that we have Genius on the field, now we can Pendulum Summon again. You gotta make sure that you're waiting for the Genius. Alright, that will then proc the Genius's effect, and also, again, make sure that you're Pendulum Summoning into the zones that Genius points to in order to proc the Search effect here for the Therion King Regulus. Therion King Regulus will go ahead and summon itself, equipping who else but Soulpiercer. And yet again, it is time for the Artifact Scythe setup. Now, I already have the Scythe in hand here, but I'll go ahead and do this anyway. Obviously, if you open Scythe, you don't need to summon Dagda, and you can save the materials to just, I don't know, do something else with. But again, just for the sake of showing off the combo line, I'll go into Dagda here anyway. Baron will then activate to target and destroy the Soulpiercer, and that will proc the Dagda. Oh, hey, actually, we can do this anyway, because it can set it from our hand. Obviously, we don't really need to do that, but we can, so that's nice. So if Scythe was in your deck, you would set it, obviously, from your deck. It's in our hand here, so we'll just set it from our hand. Baron pops Soulpiercer, and Soulpiercer gets to search out the Soulgaia booster. Okay, let's make us a Spright Elf using Dagda and the Infinitrack Tunneller. This time I will put it in the correct EMZ so that it's pointing at the Baron. Can activate the Soulgaia booster to equip, and then unequip. Oh, of course we also have to use Elf to bring back the Motorbike too. It doesn't really matter that I did the Gaia booster first. It's not going to eat up too much space or anything. However, you can see that if we had Pendulum Summoned a 4th monster, that would eat up too much space, so that's why I say only Pendulum Summon 3, don't Pendulum Summon the 4th monster. Motorbike is going to want to bump its own level up to 4. Again, if you had Boardload Savage Dragon, you could do that here. I'm going to go for the Omega Hand Rip instead. Alright, we'll activate Omega's effect. And now we can Wakaushi effect. We'll special summon a Soulpiercer from our deck to make sure that we are getting one more search there. And there's Sarutobi ready to pop the Scythe. But of course, remember that we are not done. Not only do we have Soulpiercer's search, we can just grab a Motorbike for follow-up plays. But also that we have the Tunneller effect. Again, we're going to put back our extra deck monsters, and I'll just put back Scales and Stealthy, the one-ofs, why not? Double Ghost Belle is kind of funny. And there you have it. Yet again, the same setup. As I said before, all of our turn 1 combos are going to get the same setup. The Motorbike line really is not very different from the Wakaushi line at all. But the other 2 lines that we're going to see here are going to be a little bit different in that they are going to use your normal summon as the first action. So let's check out another one of these turn 1 combos. Okay, so funnily enough, here I have actually opened Wakaushi and Motorbike, the previous 2 1-card combo enablers that we saw. We've also opened the 3rd one, Superheavy Samurai Soulpiercer. Opening this card by itself, with just, 4 other like hand traps or something like that in hand, is actually still the full combo. So, as always, ever, I'm just going to kind of assume that, let's assume that these are not like Superheavy Samurai cards. Let's assume these are all, I don't know, 3 other drivers. Why not? Just things that are not useful for comboing. So you'll start by normal summoning the Soulpiercer. We're going to go ahead and link that off for the Scarecrow immediately following that. Already doing things in a little bit of a different order, but only these first initial steps. You'll see very soon here that we're going to end up going back into that same pattern we've been doing for the last 2 combos. Soulpiercer effect will activate. Again, we're assuming that these are just 4 vanilla normal monsters in our hand. So we're going to want to add the Motorbike. I almost added Wakaushi, but you actually need to add Motorbike. Because again, we have to have this set up in our graveyard to bring back with the Assault Stardust. Very easy, very, very easy mistake to make. I actually have done it quite a few times, just adding the Wakaushi directly, but we need to Motorbike and then Motorbike for Wakaushi again. We gotta have that Motorbike set up in the graveyard. You always gotta make sure it's in there. If you're ever wondering, like, why Accel Synchro Stardust isn't activating, it's probably because you haven't set that up in the graveyard. Again, very, very easy thing to do. I've done it many times already, but, okay, Wakaushi will activate. We'll put the Big Benkei in the other Pendulum Scale. Again, if you do not have a Big Benkei in your deck, you cannot resolve this effect, so very, very important. Okay, Big Benkei is going to add... Normally, we would add Soulpiercer. That's what we did for the last couple of combo lines, but we've already started with Soulpiercers. We don't actually need to add that. Let's instead grab a Soulpeacemaker, because we will need that here in a moment. Okay, from here, where are we? We are going to activate the Scarecrow effect. Let's just discard this driver. And bring back the Soulpiercer. As always, ever, make sure that Scarecrow's zone is open, as that's where it goes. Alright, now let's Synchro Summon for our Accel Synchro Stardust using the Wakaushi and Soulpiercer. And now we're activating all 3 of these effects. Again, the combo line probably looks pretty familiar by this point. We've arrived pretty much at the same stage we were in the first 2 combo lines, where, we're doing all 3 of these effects in chain link. Again, we're chain blocking them with the Wakaushi. We're bringing back the Motorbike and a Soulpiercer. Normally, I would add Stealthy here, but we only play 1 copy and we already opened it, so... here, let's just go ahead and grab Soulgaia booster. That's like the next thing we'll need. Alright, let's make Baronne de Fleur. Or sorry, Baronne de Fleur. I'll set it up on the left side this time, why not? It's not important that Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow zone is open at this point. Alright, now we can equip Soulpeacemaker to the Scarecrow. And activate the effect. blowing it up, and special summoning the Scales. Alright, Scales F will bring back who else but good old Soulpiercer, our very much not once per turn at all Searcher. And again, we're going to summon the Stealthy out here. The past couple of times I've been kind of casual about it. I mean, I've been like, why not? Let's summon Stealthy. You do actually need to summon it here because, oh no, it's only if you have no spell or trap cards in the graveyard. I'm sorry, I thought you had to have a super heavy samurai on the field in order to special summon Stealthy. That is my mistake, but anyway. Ballista and Soulpiercer are going to activate here. Let's see. Again, assuming we didn't already open the second Wakaushi, we would definitely just add another one here. And then Ballista is going to, of course, add the box. What's in the box? It is Infinitrack Tunneller. Alright, now we can Link Summon our Qliphort Genius. We're going to do it on the right side this time to make sure that both the Link zones are open. And now that we have Qliphort Genius out, now we can Pendulum Summon. Again, you gotta make sure that you have that Genius out before you Pendulum Summon, so that way you're getting the Regulus search. This will proc the Genius F. We'll get back that get that Regulus in the first place, rather not get back, but Regulus F, target Soulpiercer. I mean, you're probably already seeing why I mentioned earlier why DD Crow is like very good against the Soulpiercer. Like, if you can banish it, it cuts off, like, all of this, pretty much. There might be some way to recoup it that I'm not super familiar with right now, but... Alright, we are going to do our Artifact Scythe setup, so we're going to summon the Dogda here. We're going to do that before we Baron to pop Soulpiercer, as that will proc the Dogda effect. And now we can set the Scythe from our deck. Okay, Soulpiercer gets to search. At this point, we don't need anything in particular, and I even already have a motorbike, so sure, whatever, I'll grab a wagon. Alright, let's special summon our Soulgaia booster, as long as I'm thinking about it. And then we can bring it back onto the field as well. Yeah, we're going to make Spright Elf with Tunneller and Dogda. I set stuff up on the left this time. I guess technically it might be more optimal to do it on the left if you're thinking about playing against that Ignister, which is a fairly niche matchup, but not entirely irrelevant by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, here we're going to use Elf to bring back the Motorbike. Motorbike level will bump its own level up by 2. Now we can sync for 8. My 8 of choice, yet again, is going to be PSY Framelord Omega. Could be Warlord Savage Dragon. Could be any generic level 8 synchro you want, really. But I like hand ripping, so we're going to do that. Again, I think the hand rip is more valuable than like a third Omni Negate in this situation. Alright, let's use Wakaushi. I'll pitch the wagon. Why not? I don't really care about it that much. And we will special summon the Soulpiercer. Of course, before sinking it into the Sarutobi. Sarutobi, as a reminder, is how we pop the Scythe. Soulpiercer gets another free search here. Again, why not? I guess I'll grab a wagon, sure. And we're going to finish it up by getting our extra draws off of the Tunneller. Putting back our extra deck monsters and, again, Stealthy and Scales. I imagine being the one-ofs, those are the best things to put back, but there might be a more nuanced or subtle reason to put back something else that I'm not aware of. And God, it's so good. Look at those draws. It's so ridiculous. Alright, we are going to do this setup one more time. This time with Wagon. I'll show you how, finally, because we don't use Wagon for like anything else. I'll talk more about Wagon as we open with it here in just a moment. Alright, this is going to be the final one-card combo. This time we're going to be doing it with Superheavy Samurai Wagon. You might have been wondering why we're playing this card, because we haven't used it as part of the combo line at all up until this point. Superheavy Samurai Wagon ends up being one of the weaker cards in the deck, in my opinion, even though it is a one-card starter. Because, again, it's really not useful for much outside of exactly starting up your combo, and it's also one of the most vulnerable combo starters. Unlike the other ones, this one's actually susceptible to getting Veilored or Impermed. And that's actually pretty bad, because it uses up your normal summon, too. Indeed, if you've got Veilor or Imperm and they normal summon Wagon, I think a lot of the time that can just be a really good choke point. Just do it right then and there. Because even if they also opened, like, Motorbike or Wakaushi, like, let's say they also opened Wakaushi, but they started by normal summoning Wagon. Don't do this, by the way, for the reason I'm about to explain, but if the Wagon gets Veilored or Impermed, then even if you activate Wakaushi and start doing that, you know, setup, when you go to use Big Becky to add Soulpiercer, then you can't normal summon the Soulpiercer. You can equip it and then link off the Wagon, and I guess in that regard you can recoup your combo line, but yeah, it does involve actually having another, like, again, combo piece in your opening hand. So, like I said, Wagon just ultimately ends up being one of the weaker cards to start with, but that being said, I still play 3 because it is still a 1-card combo starter, and I will show you how. This card is also pretty susceptible to Ghost Ogre. For this reason, when you normal summon it, it immediately activates the effect to change the battle position. You do have to activate this effect, by the way, in order to actually combo. You have to change this to defense mode, because it's got another effect where if you change it from exactly defense to attack mode, then you can add a Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. So, yeah, that's a lot of why this card is very susceptible to getting Veilored, or Impermed, or Ghost Ogred, and as a result, why it ends up being one of the weaker pieces to start with. But we can go ahead and add ourselves a Soulpiercer. We're going to activate the Soulpiercer and equip it to the Wagon. And this is kind of going to be like the Soulpiercer line moving forward. We're going to link the Wagon equipped with Soulpiercer for Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow. I accidentally put it in the right zone. I usually like to put it in the left EMZ, but it actually doesn't really matter. You can put the Scarecrow in the right EMZ. To be fair, putting it in the left EMZ does play around very specific kinds of disruption a little bit better, but it's not the most important thing in the world. Alright, Soulpiercer F can grab who else but not Wakaushi, but Motorbike. You see, that's why I drilled it so hard in the last combo line, to really make sure you're doing this, because it's so easy. It's so easy to be like, oh, I just grab Wakaushi here, and then I'm all set. But no, remember, we need to have Motorbike in the graveyard in order to set up the Baron, so very, very important to Motorbike for Wakaushi and not just go straight for the Wakaushi there. Alright, we're going to activate Wakaushi. Again, we opened a Big Benkei, but because we have another one in our deck, we can actually still do this effect. So Big Benkei, here we're going to end up adding the Soulpeacemaker, because again, we've already set up the Soulpiercer. Alright, let's use Scarecrow's effect now. We'll just pitch our extra Big Benkei, bring back the Soulpiercer. Make the Accel Stardust Dragon. And we got our lovely little chain link here of Soulpiercer, Chainlink 1, Accel Stardust, Chainlink 2. Actually, it doesn't super matter what order those two are in, as long as Wakaushi is Chainlink 3. This is definitely the best effect to chain block with, for sure. Because it's really hard to counter, right? I mean, to be fair, if they'd had like an Asher or Gamma or something, they probably would have used it already, but it's definitely better to chain block unnecessarily than to not, because you never know. You never know when you could get interrupted. Alright, here we need Stealthy, right? Yep. Alright, I'll set the Baron up on the left side again this time, why not? Just kind of showing that you can set it up on either side. And in that regard, it doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot. Okay, let's summon Stealthy, why not? And then, more importantly, let's Soulpeacemaker on the Scarecrow, and then activate Soulpeacemaker's effect to summon the Scales! Alright, now the Super Heavy Samurai Scales are going to bring back the Soulpiercer, of course. And now we link these two for the Ballista. Ballista adds the blocks, and that will in turn, of course, get us the Tunneller. I am the gearbox, beware. Alright, Yeah, we still need... Not that one. Actually, we do still need that one. I was going to add Soulgaia booster, but we still need a second Wakaushi as well. Alright. Box F for the Tunneller. And let's make the Genius before we Pendulum Summon. You always got to make that Qliphort Genius before you Pendulum Summon. Very, very important to get that extra Omni Negate. But now that Genius is out, now we can Pendulum Summon. We're going to summon these 3 exactly. And that will proc the Genius F. Genius F to add the Regulus. And again, if you opened Regulus, you could add the Jizukiru or Kaiju for some potential follow-up play as well on the next turn, if it ends up being needed. Regulus, we're of course going to grab Soulpiercer. Always need to grab that Soulpiercer, because we like getting free searches. Very, very nice thing to do. Alright, we're going to use the Box and the Genius to make the Dogda here. Gonna want to make sure Dogda's on the field before we Baron to pop our own Soulpiercer, because then we can use Dogda's effect to set up the Artifact Scythe. Boom. There it is. Pop. And of course we're going to add... we still need, yes, the Soulgaia booster, so let's get that. Alright, again, it doesn't super matter the order you do this in. We can do Gaia booster first. Why not? And then we'll also make Elf with Tunneller and Dogda. Elf F to bring back Motorbike. Motorbike will bump its own level up by 2. And now you can make your 8 of choice. As always, ever, it is going to, for me, be PSY Framelord Omega. We all know what's going on by this point, right? Omega's going to hand rip. We're going to activate the Wakaushi. Sure, I'll discard Nib here. Special summon another Soulpiercer from our deck. This is, again, why it's so good to banish that first Soulpiercer if possible, because... yeah, Super Heavy Samurai can get another one, but only through Wakaushi's effect at this point, which again will lock you into Super Heavy Samurai summons, so... in addition to, of course, Droll and Lockbird, of course, being so good here. I mean, god, how many times have we activated this stupid card's effect? DD Crow is another card you'll probably see people start to tech a lot. Nothing specific we have to get here. We'll just get a Motorbike for follow-up plays. And before we round out the turn... let's get a couple of extra free draws, as well as setting our extra deck back up as well. And there's Scales. Alright. Now that I've shown off all of the one-card combo lines, again, I do want to also show off opening Scales. It's really not that much different in the grand scheme of things, but it's something that I wondered about when I was looking up combos, and I could see people, you know, getting a little bit tripped up there if you open your one of. So let's demonstrate that before we round out the video here. Okay, so one thing that I've talked about in a couple of combo lines that I do want to cover is what to do if you open Scales. You can still do a full combo line, even if you do open the Scales there, and I will show you how. I didn't actually open Scales here, but I'm just going to use Motorbike and add it. I'm going to cheat a little bit. So if you opened, like, Scales Soulpiercer, right? Let's normal summon Soulpiercer and link it off for the Scarecrow. We're going to use Soulpiercer F. Normally, I would add Motorbike and then use that to add Wakaushi like I've been doing here. But again, because I already used Motorbike to set up the Scales in my hand, for example, you don't actually want to be doing that, but just for the example, I'm going to add Wakaushi here. But most important is that we have the Motorbike set up in the graveyard. Alright, Wakaushi to the Pendulum Scale. Effect to place the big Benkei. And then, of course, summon itself. If the game will let me do it. Alright, here we go. Big Benkei F. We're going to grab the Soulpeacemaker. And activate that. I guess we don't have to do it right this second, but sure, we'll put it on the Scarecrow now. Let's activate Scarecrow's effect to discard And bring back Soulpiercer. Right over here. Make the Accel Stardust with you and you. Putting that here. Our lovely 3-part chain link of chain link 1 Soulpiercer, chain link 2 Accel Stardust. And we're going to block it with the chain link 3 Wakaushi. Yeah, things pretty samey up until this point, of course, but that's because we haven't gotten to the point where we normally summon scales from deck yet. Let's add Stealthy. Alright, let's make ourselves a Baron. I'm going to special summon the Stealthy. And now we activate Soulpeacemaker. And normally you would summon a Scales from deck here. However, because we already have it in hand, I'm going to summon the Soulpiercer instead. Now, up to this point, I have been using the Ancient Gear Ballista at this point in the combo line. But I'm not going to do that here. The reason is because if I link these two into Ancient Gear Ballista, I don't have another monster on board to go into Qliphort Genius before I Pendulum Summon. And remember, always got to have that Qliphort Genius out when we Pendulum Summon, if at all possible, in order to add the Regulus. To be fair, I could go for the Ballista anyway and set up some bodies as well as the Draw 2, but I really want that Omni Negate, so I'm just going to go for the Genius here, using the Soulpiercer and Stealthy. This will proc the, what? Oh, right, because for some reason I thought Genius's effect was supposed to activate there. This will, of course, proc the Soulpiercer, and I'm going to grab the second Wakaushi here. Very important that we have that. Now that we have Genius up, we can Pendulum Summon. I'm going to ignore the Wagon in hand, and only going to summon the Scales and Wakaushi. Again, just assuming we didn't open the Wagon here. Now we can activate Scales effect because it's been special summoned. We can also use the Genius in order to grab the Regulus. Gonna, of course, summon Soulpiercer off of the Scales. And yes, there is the Regulus. Alright, Regulus F. Equip the Soulpiercer. Alright, let's get our Scythe Lock set up. Let's go for the Dogda, using Scales and Genius. Now that we have Dogda on board, we can activate our Baron's effect. Popping the Piercer, this will proc the Dogda to set up the Scythe from our deck. Alright. Soulpiercer F. What are we going to add here? Oh, we've got to add the Soulgaia booster. Right. We still need to get that online. Let's go ahead and get that online while I'm thinking about it. And then activate. Summon here. Now, we should be able to go, let me think, if I go Boom Boom Elf, Elf bring back Motorbike, Motorbike bump up to 4. I think this still, yeah, this should still be fine. We should still be able to do everything else here. Okay, there's Elf. Get another Soulpiercer search, why not? I'll add a Motorbike for follow-up plays. Alright, Elf F. To bring back the Bike. Alright, Bike F to bump its own level up by 2. Summon your 8 of choice, as always, never from me. That is going to end up being the Omega. For the Hand Rip. And now we can go ahead and just pitch the Wagon. I'll summon out Soulpiercer number 3. And then sync for the Sarutobi. And we get one last search. I'll grab the last Wakaushi, why not? And there you have it. There is the same setup, even if you do open the Scales. The only thing that we had to pass up on here, again, was the Ancient Gear Ballista, which, to be fair, you could also do the combo line without playing Ancient Gear Ballista. Some people don't like playing the Ancient Gearbox and Infinitrack Tunneller in the deck. To be fair, they are 2 Garnets, even if they do result in us recycling our materials and drawing 2. I think they're probably worth it, but they are not required. As you can see, you can still end on the exact same setup. And again, this setup was also done opening the one of Superheavy Samurai Scales. So even if you open that card, it is not an issue. You can still do the line as shown here. But that is going to go ahead and do it for this particular combo guide. Again, there's a lot you can do with Superheavy Samurai. You can FTK. You can Auroradon combo. You can do Dissipator Omega Hand Loop. And if I decide to explore those other variants, then I will definitely consider making a follow-up combo guide showing off something more specific. To be fair, we showed off kind of specifically the Artifact Scythe and Tunneler setup here, but I think that's worth it for a build like this, and that's how I'm going to be playing it, at least moving forward here in the first few days. But there we have it. There is the combo guide. Thank you everybody so much for watching this video. Let us now move to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.